go for it.
Cracking. Hi everybody, and welcome back to the Golf Chat Show Live. We're on to about, I'm going to say, the 17th episode, 17th straight day of doing the Golf Chat Show Live. Today we got Annabel Dimmock, Ladies European Tour player and Ladies European Tour winner on the show. Thanks for coming on.
No worries. Good to be here.
How are you? How are you doing?
Yeah, as well as I could, as well as anyone could be right now. Yeah, I'm doing okay at the minute. It's good the sunshine's come back out. That makes me feel a lot better.
I tell you what, if the sun wasn't shining, I think we'd all be losing our minds a little bit more than we are at the minute.
Honestly, like, I was having this conversation with someone else, like, everyone's asking how I am, and I'm actually okay at the minute. But I was said, as soon as if the weather changes, that's when I think I'll definitely, and I'm sure a lot of other people will be in trouble.
Because, like, you're used to traveling around, going to hot places, playing probably anything upwards of 14 to 20 tournaments a year, being abroad. Now you're at home. What does a day-to-day look like for you?
I know it's very different to my normal sort of days away or at home, but so I'm just waking up, pushing myself to go to the gym. Like we just had a conversation earlier, it's one of the harder things I find in the day is making sure I get my workout in and stuff. And then after that's out the way and done with, then the fun time starts, and I'll go in the garden and practice. It's been amazing since the weather's been good. Like, I've really enjoyed practicing. I'm obviously missing the golf course, but there's nothing you can do right now, so just making the best of what you got. So yeah, and then I'll do a few sort of hours in the garden practicing, come in for lunch, bit of ping pong, bit of this and that. But yeah, just trying to stay busy is the main thing, I think.
Because the hardest thing is, because, I mean, we spoke briefly before coming live, that you don't know when you're going to be playing tournament golf next. So how do you keep yourself motivated for it?
That's the hardest thing. It's like, if no one can put their finger on anything, but if we had a date, it's almost then we could like sort of plan for it. But when we don't know, the way I see it is, look, it could be in 3 weeks, it could be in 3 months, it could be in 3 weeks that sort of it's like, right, you can go out on the golf course. So I'm just trying to keep in my head, I don't want to say to myself, oh, I'm not playing golf for 2 months or whatever, or maybe longer or whatever, so because that's a bit of a sad thought. But I'm just trying to stay competitive in the house, and everything I do, I'm quite a competitive person by nature. So everything I'm doing, I'm playing a lot of different games with myself, like making new ones each day to keep me motivated and to try and like take my mind off that a little bit, to be honest. But it's going okay so far, so that's good.
So are the Ladies European Tour in contact with you saying, okay, we're looking to do this, we're hoping to play then? Do you get much?
Yeah, so they obviously send us emails and keeping us massively in the loop as much as they can. They've been really good with that. I actually had a conversation with someone that works from the LET last week, and they're staying positive like we are and stuff, and he did assure me that they're in contact with a lot of the sponsors for the tournaments still. Sorry, there's a dog there. So yeah, we're in contact with a lot of the sponsors and keeping up the relationship and stuff like that, and that's all they can do right now, to be honest. It's hard, isn't it? They don't know any more than anyone else, so it's just tricky.
No, and like on the priority list, golf for people and for everybody in the grand scheme of it, not
in the grand scheme of it, you know, there's people like the NHS working so hard at the minute to keep us going, and it's just, I feel selfish sort of moaning about not being able to play golf when at the end of the day it's a lot of people's hobbies, but you know, it is our jobs.
Exactly.
And we aren't working at the minute, so it is hard. But in the grand scheme of everything going on, our health and staying safe is more important right now, and that's the main thing.
Exactly, couldn't have summed it up any better. Now I want to get on to a happier note. Your win last year,
yeah,
it was a one-shot win in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so I had a 2-shot going down the last. It was a par 5 over water, and I said to myself, the girl that I was playing with went for the green in 2, and she did get it on. She had a tough 2-putt, but she did get it on the green in 2, and she made birdie and I made par. So just the 1 shot, but yeah, it was good.
So how do you approach that? Are you going down the last thinking, right, got to weigh up what she did? Is it more like a match play situation right in there?
Yeah, so at that point, I remember in the tournament, I was only thinking about her.
Yeah. I saw the leaderboard. It was just between you two in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just between us two in the last sort of few to be honest with you, in the back nine, it was like match play, us against each other. She'd hole a long putt, make a great birdie. The next hole, I'd hole a long putt, make a birdie. If I didn't make it on that hole, it was really good, actually. I was really pleased with the last group that I had, because obviously the crowds were supporting her because she was sort of the home player.
Yeah.
So the crowds were big. So when she was holding a putt, it was loud. Yeah. And when I hold a putt, it was not that loud. So it was actually spurring me on quite a lot. But yeah, it was kind of like a match play situation between me and her at the end of the day, really, I'd say.
Did that help you in that kind of getting over the line, almost thinking, right, okay, all I got to do is beat this person in front of me right now. If I can do that, I've won. Rather than thinking, oh, what's that person doing 3 groups behind, or they posted a score.
Yeah, kind of. I like, before the round started, I said to myself that I didn't really want to. I just wanted to play my game, which I think you can't get to. I'm a very competitive person, like I just said, but even though you can't get too wrapped up in the scores, because you can hit a great shot, get an unlucky bounce, and do you know what I mean? Some days it just doesn't happen. So I was just going out there and playing my golf and my game, and sticking to my strategy that I had when I spoke to my coach the night before. And I remember getting off to a quick start. I remember I was 2 shots behind going into the last day. And when we got to I can't remember exactly, I'd need to look at my scorecard, but I think it was when I got to about the 8th, I was 4 or 5 under, and she was like 3 or 4. So it was close the whole way around. So I got off to a really fast start. So yeah, but that's it, like, good memories when I think about it. But yeah, I remember at the time I was trying not to get too wrapped up in the scores, but by the end you couldn't help but not, and it was actually both spurring us both on, which was frustrating, because it was like, geez, I felt like I'm making so many birdies here and she's just coming back at me. But it was good, and it's what separated us from the field. Because we weren't worried about our score. We were like, oh my, like, do you know what I mean? I'm 5 under here. How am I not leading? It was, come on, I got to get another birdie. I've got to beat her because she's getting birdies as well. And that's what I think actually helped in the end when I look back on it now, because I wasn't wrapped up in, oh, is anyone coming from the back of the pack or this or that, because it was just me against her at that point.
So were you looking at leaderboards going down there? Because obviously you must have sort of known crowds gathering around your group.
Not at the start. In the last sort of 4-5 holes, I definitely knew the score. I always knew the score in the back of my head roughly, but I definitely knew what was going on, because there was a few sort of shots on the last 4 holes that you could sort of make or break. So you kind of, I do, like, with people that say they never know their score when they're playing golf. Personally, I physically don't understand how that's possible for me.
I've always wondered that, because it influences what you're going to do, doesn't it?
Yeah,
like,
I think
what's there, if she put in the water, you laid up, and it changed everything.
I know, it completely changes your whole strategy going into the last 4 holes. If you need to make up 2 shots, there's 2 par 5s. For me personally, I want to know that, because I'm going for them par 5s. But I mean, you've seen a lot of cases also where people have made mistakes and they didn't need to push on the last how many holes. So it's different for everyone, really, how they see the situation. I remember Charlie Hull saying in an interview a while ago, I can't remember when, but that she literally doesn't know her score on the way round. She just walks up to the ball and hits it. And I think that's pretty impressive in itself. But I physically, it almost pushes me on a bit to know my score sometimes. But yeah, everyone's different, aren't they, really?
Yeah, like some people would maybe dissolve under knowing where they are on the leaderboard, and it could really change what you do. But then other players, like, I guess, like Tiger's like that, he sees where he's on the leaderboard, and like at the Masters, it just drives him on.
Yeah, exactly. To be fair, you can even relate it back to amateur golf. You know, the first time people break par, they're 1 under going down the last. How many times have people bogeyed the last? Yeah, I've done it, like, when I was young, knowing the score. I remember I was in one of my amateur really early when I first joined Wentworth, and I was on the scholarship program, and I was playing in I think it was the club champs there, and I was on for course record. I think it was like 5 under or something going down 17, and I knew the course record was like 4 under or something like that. And I remember I knew the score, and I think I finished like 3 under in the end. So that was a massive drive for me to be like, no, you need to handle under pressure. And I learned that quite early, luckily, from that, because I got so upset that I sort of bottled it on the last, that I remember the next time I had a tournament around the West course, I did get the course record, which like was good like that.
Yeah.
As long as if you do it, but you learn by it. Everyone has to do it once, I think, and learn that sometimes knowing the score, you have to know how to handle it if you do know the score. But
so have you ever had any help like on the psychology side of things to help you prepare for that kind of thing in tournament?
I remember in county golf, we always had a psychologist, and in England golf were great. We always had a psychologist. I've worked a little bit with Carl Morris, but my first coach and my dad, my first coach I had for 12, 13 years. He was my first ever coach, a guy called Lawrence Farmer, who was quite a close family friend in the end. He was an ex-player, played with like Bernard Gallagher and people like that. And old school, they know how to get it around a golf course, and they've got their heads really screwed on for golf. And he taught me from such a young age a lot of good sort of mental fundamentals kind of thing, that got me thinking the right way. My dad helps me out a lot. My dad's massively into it. He reads a lot of the books and stuff like that, which I'm not a massive fan of reading, but he helps me in that way. Is he'll now and again pick out a few things for me that he thinks will help me, and sort of like that. So I'm quite lucky that the people I have around me have very much helped me with my mental sort of game. And growing up, my dad and my first coach, who I was talking about as well, were they didn't give me an easy sort of go at it. Like, they were quite tough love, which is, I think, so important.
Definitely.
That I was, if it's stupid stuff, like it's raining out there, I don't really want to practice. What do you mean you don't want to practice in the rain? Like stuff like that, tough love that I know. And if my children ever wanted to play golf, I know I definitely bring them up that way.
So I'm just about those two people that have really influenced your dad and your coach. What has been the best piece of golfing advice you've ever been given, and from who?
Oh, this is such a tricky question. Do you know what? I love talking to ex-players. Obviously, I'm very close to Sam Torrance and stuff. So I could talk for hours about stories that he's told me and stuff. But I think one of the most sort of important things, tying back to my win, that helped me out a lot, is I remember my first coach, a guy called Lawrence Farmer, that I just spoke about. He always said to me that you can't find something like your swing or whatever at a tournament. You have to take it there, and once you get there, you have to play with what you've got. And I remember standing on the first sort of practice day, I think it was on a Monday or a Tuesday at the Evian, where I won, and I was hitting it horrendous. I was like, this is so. I was sending them to my coach now, a guy called Simon Shanks. I was sending my swings and like, look, it was looking fine on video, but it was just my strikes, I just didn't feel right. And I just thought I was playing with quite a big draw, and at that point I'd started to hit quite a nice fade that I was sort of playing quite well with. And when I turned up there, it was sort of this big draw, and I was a bit like, what the hell's going on? But so it took me a day and a half, and I was grinding on the range, trying to find it. And then I remember on Wednesday or Tuesday afternoon, in one of my last practice rounds before I teed it up, I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to play with what I've got. So I went round and I played 6 holes on my own quite late after quite a long range session. I remember my roommate had walked back by that point to the hotel room, and I just went out on my own. I was like, right, I'm just going to play with what I got. And I played 6 holes, and I think I shot like 3 under in them 6 holes. And then the next day I teed it up and played well, and just thought to myself, look, if this big draw is what I've got this week, that's just what I'm going to play with. So, and that's what I did. So just play with what you've got. Don't try and hit the shots that you want to hit. Just play with what sort of the cards you're dealt, really.
Yeah, I think most people watching this are like club golfers, mid-handicappers. Most people slice it, but everybody wants to draw it. Now, it's funny, you're hearing the opposite thing. You were drawing it quite a lot, but wanting to fade it. And I think, like you say there, if you can just play what you got and manage what you got, and that's probably in all areas of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Make it work, and it doesn't take long for your confidence to come back up and win the cup.
If you're on the range and you're hitting a slice or whatever, it's about minimizing it down to as much as you can. Don't step on the first and try and hit a massive raking draw, because it's just not going to happen. That you didn't hit one of them on the range. No. So it's not going to happen on the first tee with the nerves as well. But you've just got to sort of deal with what you've got and be like, right, I need to start this sort of left bunker because it's going to move back from the left into the fairway kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that would be my advice I think I would give someone.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really, really good piece of advice. A lot of people talk about swing changes, swing thoughts, playing what you got. It's not like you say, it's almost old school, but like not taught at the minute. And I actually had Clark Morris on the show and Simon Dyson the day, and we were talking about the fact that people have lost that ability to play with what you got.
Yeah, he's massive into that sort of stuff, Carl. Yeah.
And I've been to a few of his talks, and I can't believe how I've seen him teach and seen him do what he does, and people change, and not talking like professionals like yourself, and like people who are club golfers as well.
Yeah. Do you know what is interesting with Carl? Like the stuff that he says, when you think about it, it's simple stuff, and it's common sense, a lot of it, which we just kind of don't really think about or just forget. And that's what's so important about them. It's no special words or this and that. It's just common sense and just being smart about the game, really, which is quite cool. I like.
Yeah, I love it, and I'm definitely trying to get a bit more down that way.
Yeah.
On the next question, okay, you've won on the Ladies European Tour. What's the next goal on your horizon? Imagine when we're back playing, tournaments are back to normal. What's the next goal on the horizon?
Well, definitely winning again, but obviously getting into as many majors as I can this year. Obviously, may not happen, but definitely for 2021. Playing as many majors. I think that's where the British Open last year is probably, I learnt the most that week. Sort of making a cut in my first major, playing the weekend in my first major was a really cool feeling. And I definitely want to get that back. Whether it's this year or next year, I'm not sure. Keep gaining experience, but I'd say a win. Just try and work up the order of merit and things like that. And I want to maybe think about trying to get onto the American tour soon. That'll probably be my next sort of goal.
Because I read somewhere, and I might be wrong in saying this, I was reading it earlier. Isn't there potentially a joint venture between LET and the LPGA? What actually is that?
So it's great what Mike Wan, has come and sort of helped us a little bit. He's basically joining together a lot of the events. It's hard for me to say what's going to happen now, but basically joining together, he's helping us fund a lot to tournaments that are going to grow, kind of thing. So he's kind of like planting the seed and coming in and helping us for us to sort of build up in the next few years. But it's really positive what he's coming and done, and it's a shame because this season was really looking quite good for us. I mean, it was weird. I was sitting down at the start of the season looking at it, and I was thinking, if I can play these all, which I don't think I would do, I would sort of plan it and sort of discuss it with my team what I was going to do. But you could be out there a lot of weeks. Like we had a lot of golf on, which I'm sure is going to be back in 2021 at least. So, but it's looking really positive, and I'm sure it still is positive. Do you know what I mean? No one can help the situation that's going on right now. Everyone will be going through the same thing. But yeah, we'll see.
So did those tournaments that are going to be kind of co-sanctioned, if you perform well in that, would that be a route over to like LPGA? Would it make it easier to go over there?
I think so, yeah. I can't exactly remember the in and outs of it all. I remember it was in a sort of a players meeting at one of the last events, and there was a lot of information thrown at us, which obviously have got in emails and stuff. But I think what it was they wanted to create the European tour to make it sort of just as good as and different target for Europe, but they wanted basically our tour to be good enough that we didn't want to have to go to America. Because sort of in the past few years, the way the European tour was, if you're doing well, you're still not earning bundles of money, and everyone wanted to go to the US, and sort of the US want to market their players for the US and not maybe have our Europeans be like very, I'm on the European tour because I live in Europe, and our tour I earn a great living, and then have people on the other side of the pond that earn a great living, and that are a lot of Americans and a lot of them sort of players. I think they wanted two very strong tours. A bit like the guys. Do you know what I mean? A lot of people choose to watch European tour golf over the American tour, even though the money's maybe more in America, because they want to see their home players kind of thing, and they're still earning great livings. I think that's what the kind of vision was for it. Obviously there's a lot of in and outs and a lot of smaller details, but I think that's what the overall vision kind of was, what I got from it anyway.
Surely that's great going forwards, because if you could get 2 tours, LPGA and LET, they're both as strong as each other, or even just bring LET closer to LPGA, that stops the big players going abroad, and that keeps the money funded in the tournaments anyway.
That's exactly what it is. They don't want the big players to get big enough where sort of the European Tour isn't, and they'll just go over to the States, and then the European Tour is left sort of not quite as strong. I think that's what they want. But yeah, and the thing is you speak to a lot of the players. Some of them do want to sort of go to the States and sort of live and base out in the States, but a lot of people don't. You know, if the European Tour, maybe down the line in a few years, I think it's going to be a lot stronger. And at that point, I would probably even be like, do you know what? I think I'd rather stay closer to home. I'm earning a good living, sort of that. Like, I do 100% get it. And if the living was good enough in Europe, which I'm sure I feel pretty positive in the next few years it is going to be, I would probably still make that decision and be like, do you know what? I'm going to come back home if I do ever get on the States and this and that, which is really good, I think.
Definitely. If you're playing over Europe, you can have more time at home, can't you? You can have Monday at home, get a tournament on a Tuesday, rather than you go to the States.
Exactly. You can see your family, you can see your dog and stuff like that, and you don't have to sort of go a month on or 2 months on, however sort of the girls do it and stuff, and then see your family for a week and then go back out. Do you know what I mean? It'd be a lot nicer if it was that way.
100%. Okay, I got a really good question here. This came from Instagram. I really like this one. Would you rather win a major or feature in a winning Solheim Cup team?
Oh, I always find this question really hard, because obviously everyone wants to win a major. Everyone wants to have their minute of glory and be a major champion. Do you know what I mean? When you talk about someone's past or whatever, you're like, did they win a major? How many majors? Yeah. That's a very strong question, as well as Solheim and Ryder Cups. But I think do you know what? I'm going to say a major, because I feel like they're going hand in hand. If you win a major, I feel like you've got a very high chance of being in a winning Solheim Cup team. And I would just love both. That's a massive thing that I miss about amateur golf as well, is the team. I used to love going away on England trips and playing for England as a team. That buzz is very different to like winning on your own. But if I had to pick one, I'd be very selfish and say major.
And what major would it be?
Definitely the British Open.
Yeah,
definitely.
What course? Any particular course?
I would love it to be in Scotland. I don't know why, but I would like it to be on a links. Actually, not Scotland, a links course.
Yeah.
Definitely a links course.
A proper British Open then, wouldn't it?
A proper British Open where it's been raining, it's windy. I would like that. Maybe not rain, actually, just windy.
So, how do you prepare for a major? I mean, you said, did you play first one last year, made the cut? Did you prepare any differently that week to a normal tournament? Because I think I was saying this the other day, I think you've got to realise it is another tournament, but then at the same time, it's a bit more elevated. So did you prepare any different for yours?
It was hard, because for me, I had a 5-week stint where I went from the Evian Championship, which is a major, to the British Open, to the Scottish, which is co-sanctioned with the LPGA. So that was really good money. It felt like a major. It felt like we had 3 majors in a row. And I think in my preparation, because I just won and I was on a buzz and I was like, oh my God, I'm loving this, doing sort of 10 hours practice a day, this and that, like absolutely got the bug. I actually overdid it. I was a bit silly and I actually overdid it, and I hurt my back after the 4th week in a row. I was doing 5 in a row. So I think I didn't quite get that right. I got like everything else around it. Do you know what? I was physically the fittest I could have been, because I knew I had to be when you're putting up with sort of major weeks. I played a major I have played in a few majors, but it was my first cut that I made this year. But they're quite draining. You have to make sure you have a lot of rest, because they can be very draining. Just even stupid stuff like the crowds, like you've got constant interaction, and walking onto the range, you've got interaction, there's crowds there. Walking onto the putting green, you've got crowds there. Do you know what I mean? The whole hype around it, you've got an unbelievable players lounge that's so exciting. You just have to make sure, unlike a normal sort of week, that you're getting your rest and you're like preserving your energy.
It could be easy to wrapped up in it all, can't it? I bet
it can be easy when you're standing on the range and there's people watching you, and you're on the range next to world number 4 or whatever, or 1 or whatever there is, to not stand there all day beating balls, because it's really fun.
Yeah.
And when you're hitting it well, you're on the range and you just want to keep hitting balls and stuff like that, but you have to be clever. And that's what I've learned, that the best players do. You hardly ever see them beating balls on the range. They get in, do what they like, the work they needed to do with their coaches, and then they leave. They're back to the hotel, which I think is a huge thing that I learned this year.
That is massive, isn't it? It's like you say, it's for pro golfers, especially yourself, when you say to be on a stint for 5 weeks in big tournaments, you could easily ride in the crest of a wave, be like hit, and the same for club golfers. You're playing well, you want to keep hitting, but maybe more time spent on the course in that situation. Do your work, go home, like you were saying, will prepare you better for the 2 weeks after.
100%. It's quality, not quantity at tournaments, definitely. I think at home you can grind, as long as it's obviously quality as well. You can grind, especially when you're doing swing changes. But when you're at a tournament, you shouldn't be doing swing changes. And it's just about getting in there and getting your eye in. Do you know what I mean? Not beating balls and improving at a tournament. That's not what you're trying to do. You're getting your eye in and you're getting prepared for Thursday when you tee up. That's all you're doing. You're not, do you know what I mean? It's a completely different mindset to when you're at home practicing or whatever.
So I know you mentioned before amateur golf, you played a lot of team events.
Yeah.
I think the LET will bring them in a bit like GolfSixes. Do you think that's something that they think
would
be a great thing?
I hope so. I think it's a great thing. Like the GolfSixes, it got really good reviews, and sort of I remember the girls played great there. Georgia and Charlie and loads of them, like Florrie and people like that. It got really good feedback, and I think the girls proved that we're definitely sort of an asset to that tournament. I hope so. I'd like to be involved in that as well. It's good fun, like when we have the tournaments sort of in Morocco and things like that, and they do sort of challenges before, you know, like the videos and stuff they do for the stuff before. They're really good fun and they look really good because it's like the banter. So I hope so, but we'll see.
Next question. Okay. Next question. I like this one as well, because I think people think as pro golfers, they play golf, go follow the sun around the world, but there's definitely highs and lows of it, isn't there?
Yeah,
so give
definitely.
me one high and give me one low of being a tournament professional.
Okay, we'll start low first. The tournament lows are, if you're not playing well, it's the hardest job in the world, most demoralizing job in the world, because you can work so hard and absolutely zero reward and be out of pocket for the week. I think it's amazing traveling to different places, but honestly, when you're tired, and say if you're not playing well and you're sitting at the airport and your flight gets cancelled, that is an all-time low.
Yeah.
That's happened to me a few times, and that is like, you literally want to curl in a ball and cry. I just call my mum and I'm like, Mum. That's a bit of a low. I just think it's, do you know what I mean? When you're not playing well, everything seems a bit hard, doesn't it? But when you're on the positive and the good one, when you are playing well, that feeling, honestly, it makes everything worth it. Like when I won in Jabra, what's it like? When did I start playing golf? When I was 8. So, and I won when I was 22. So that's so many years of my life that I have trained literally for that moment there. That's like that Sunday when you're standing on the green and my friends running on spraying champagne at me, that was just like
best feeling.
Yeah, best feeling. And it makes every single flight cancellation and whatever there was worth it. So that's what you get out there in the rain, wind, do you know what I mean, sunshine. That's what we all, us pros, work for, and that's what makes us sort of stay out there and stuff. So yeah, but it's worth it when it does come, and once it does come like I crave, because I know what that feeling's like now, I like crave it almost even more.
Yeah. And I guess it's to prove to yourself that you can do it again. It's prove to everybody else you can win now, but you want to prove to yourself that you can do it again.
Yeah, definitely. Like everyone says, oh, your first win's the hardest or whatever. I'm not sure if I believe that, because now I've done it once. I'm like, come on, like you can do this. I don't want to put pressure on myself, because that's what I tend to do. But now I'm like, look, you've done it once, you can definitely do it. Like, let's go. Like, what are we waiting for, kind of thing. But yeah.
So you made that transition from amateur playing at county level into England level, and then winning on the Ladies European Tour. How does that work? Like, people watching now, say young guys, young girls watching this now, like, how does that work going through that? Would that be a good way to go, or going to the States? What's your opinion on
that? It was weird. I was tempted to go to the States. I started playing for county. My sister played, and my mum and dad managed to get me on this thing called a Signet scheme at a course called Gerrards Cross, locally near my parents' house. So I started playing for the club, obviously, then got into the county, and then was playing county matches, was loving it. I was still really, really young. And then I remember I practiced and I managed to get an England trial. So you go along, and it's quite a scary day for someone, like for a kid.
Yeah,
do you know, like, I don't know, it's quite a scary thing. I remember being so nervous the night before it. And yeah, so you turn up, and these coaches and these England selectors are all watching you hit balls, watching you putt, watching you go around the golf course. And then you'll get a letter sort of a few weeks later whether you got in or not. And I remember the first time me and my sister went, she got in and I didn't.
It's like going to a school exam, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Literally, that's exactly what it is. I wasn't great at them either. But yeah, so my sister got on the team and I didn't, and that was heartbreaking. So sorry, someone's hoovering outside the door now. Oops. Yeah, and then from there I managed to go back for another trial and I got in, which was amazing, and obviously felt like a massive achievement after sort of being distraught I didn't last time. And then so then you go up and you work your way up the team. So I remember once I got in the England squad, I always set myself a goal. So even when I was playing, I wanted to play for county, and then my next goal was playing for England, and then it was being the best player in England. And then it happened. And then once I was sort of the best player in the England, and I sort of done the Curtis Cup, I'd done Junior Ryder Cup, I'd done all them, Youth Olympics, it was like, okay, what's my next goal? And I could have gone to the States, but I thought I'd always pushed myself and went for the next sort of thing, and I felt like turning pro was the next thing, because I didn't want to go back to school. I didn't want to feel like if I stayed amateur, what I was trying to get in the same events that I got in sort of last time, I didn't want to do that. So I pushed myself and turned pro and made a big leap. And maybe some people might say it was a bit young, but I was learning my trade, and I wouldn't have changed a thing, because it sort of made me who I am today, doing it that way.
That's a massive thing, and a massive kind of step to take. But I like that route more than almost going to the States, because you hear the guys and the girls and they're like, oh yeah, go to the States, but then you've done everything. A lot of people go to the States to do what you did: play Curtis Cup, play Junior Ryder Cup, play in the Youth Olympics. So for doing all those things, you're like, well, nothing else to do. But there's a lot of guys out here feel like they have to go to the States, and then they come over here being a great amateur, and then they play some challenge tour events, and it's a big wake-up call because they haven't learnt the trade.
Yeah, I think, do you know what, before, a lot of people ask me sort of, when do you turn pro? I don't believe in turning pro until you feel like, not conquered the amateur game, but done, do you know what I mean, proved yourself in the amateur game. Because I'm a big believer in, if you haven't proved yourself there, why are you stepping up to the next thing? I know a lot of people like pushing themselves and things like that, and I totally get that, but I think almost from a self-confidence, when I turned pro, I was obviously young and sort of naive, but I did have a lot of confidence, and I thought I was sort of the best, because I'd come from a very small pond and I was a big fish in it, and then I went to a massive pond and being a small fish, I still had that confidence. And I think you have to have that to be able to step up and turn up to your first tour event knowing that you are a really good, you've proved yourself so far. I think that's a massive thing. And I think people can't rush it. Like, what's the point in rushing it? Golf, you have such a long sort of time. It's not like any other sports, which we're really lucky, and you've got to take your time. I would just say to people now, take your time, complete everything you want to do as an amateur before you turn pro.
I guess that sort of takes the pressure away from you in a sense that you go into that pro environment. Well, actually, I've got this in my resume as an amateur. So it gives you not that confidence, but also probably a bit of respect as well from other players.
I think that's what it is. And you do have to earn people's respect. And I just think for me, it's always been myself. Like, I knew myself, I was ready. And obviously golf is the biggest thing is self-confidence, isn't it? Everyone talks about it. You can't sort of have a conversation with a golf psychologist without talking about your self-confidence. And I think that's a massive thing that helps the self-confidence. I don't know if I would have loads of self-confidence turning pro. But the thing is what's interesting about this is everyone's different. Look at Ian Poulter. He turned pro off 4. And he's like one of the best players in the world. It's just, in my experience, my advice I would give to, say, a younger friend or someone that comes to me and asks, that would be my advice. But I'm sure there's other people's opinions out there, and that's the thing about golf. Everyone has their own opinion.
And people like to share it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, final question. I've asked everybody this when they come on the show. Fantasy golfer. So you got to pick a driving swing, an iron swing, a short game and pitching swing, and a putting swing to make up your fantasy golfer.
Okay, so driver, obviously Rory. And then we're going iron swing.
Yep.
Molinari.
Yeah, I like that. No one's picked him for iron swing yet.
No, iron swing. I was actually watching him last weekend at the Masters when he was doing so well against Tiger.
Yeah, I watched that as well.
I know, and I know obviously sort of dropped a few coming in, but at the front nine, it just looks like his swing is just not going to go wrong with an iron.
Frozen rope, innit? It's just like,
I know, it's the same rhythm, the same tempo, the same swing every single time. Like, you don't know where the shot is because you can't tell, because all the swings look the same, don't they?
Yeah.
Anyway, so what was it then?
Short game. So like pitching, chipping, bunker play.
Tiger. I think Tiger's got that magic around the greens. He's just got that special when you think, oh my God, this shot is horrific. No one can ever play it. He'll probably hole it, won't he? So, but yeah, and then putting. Oh, that's a really tricky one. Who do I love putting? A lot of people. I quite like someone like Matt Kuchar because he putts quite. I enjoy watching him because he putts very
similar to him, don't you? Your arm.
Yeah. So I putt with the putter up my arm, like almost like a bit of an arm lock. It kind of goes into the crease of like my elbow, and that's quite similar to Matt Kuchar. So I enjoy watching him because I'm like, oh, what's he doing there? So,
I've always enjoyed watching him putt, and I've tried that. I just can't do it. I've tried. I can't control the putter. It feels like it's all over the place.
Yeah, do you know, it's weird. Everyone picks up my putter and is like, what? Because it's obviously got so much loft on it because I have it really far forward as well. But it's weird. Like when I pick up a normal putter right now, I'm like, oh.
How did you try that? Do you just think one day I'm going to take it out and I'm going to do it?
So I was in Morocco last year and I was struggling with my putting loads, like under pressure. My left hand kept sort of flicking or just wasn't staying square. The putter, I was finding it really hard. So I put my normal putter at the time. I had a thick grip on it, but I put it sort of on my wrist to try and keep it stable. I putted a bit better, but it still wasn't quite right. So I came home and I had a tournament sort of literally the next week. So I messaged a guy called Adrian who works for TaylorMade, and I said, can you send me out a putter that I need to make up like emergency? So he sent me like a putter before it'd been made on a really long shaft. And I cut it down, put the grip on it, and just literally put it on my arm and just made it to me with one of my sort of putting coach at Wentworth that I use, a guy called James Sharp. I remember when he was trying to put the loft on it and I was saying a bit more, he was like, Annabel, it's going to snap. And I was like, just do it. And then we did it and it was perfect. And I literally won with that putter 2 weeks later. It's crazy.
The big ball changed and it's massive, that.
When you find something that works for you and you make it fit your putting, it's good. It definitely is a good thing and helped me loads.
That's class. Well, thank you very much for your
No
time. I
worries.
appreciate it.
No worries.
And we all wish you the best of luck, and fingers crossed we do get back playing very, very soon.
I know, fingers crossed. But the main thing, everyone's staying safe and well.
Perfect. Thanks so much for watching today, guys. We are back tomorrow at 7 p.m. Thank you very much. As always, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you tomorrow.